So now we're in our Finch project. I'm in a project called Finch Sample Project that you will also have available. And we've opened the variant 3 custom core. So you'll see that we've ascribed our programs as we did in the last tutorial. So now what we want to do is we want to jump ahead to work on the floor plate. How do we do this? Well, it's as simple as double clicking on the floor and it's going to bring up our 2D floor plate editor. Now that we're in our building plan, we can scroll between the floors here using our story slider. So you see we're now down in retail and we can slide it up. And the first thing that we're going to do here is we're going to run through how to generate a corridor and some cores on this floor plate. If we click on our floor plate here, we see we have the option to generate a unit mix in stairwells, unit mix in corridors, and a unit mix around existing corridor. What we're going to do is we're going to click our unit mix in corridors. But before we do that, let's take a look at what we need to draw to make sure Finch can draw the best possible corridor and core for us. Well, what's this line here that we see? This is our center line, and our center lines we can draw in our native software, or we can draw directly here in Finch. Our center lines are going to tell Finch where to place the corridor. So in this instance, we see that it's centered to this U-shaped building. If we want to make any adjustments to this, we simply select this little edit icon, click once on the line, once again to select the end, and then we can drag our center lines. Let's go ahead and do that on the other side as well. Remember, click twice to make sure that we're dragging just the end. Just to demonstrate what happens if we don't do this, if we just click once and then drag, you see we're going to drag the whole center line. We don't want to be doing that. I'm going to go ahead and undo that. This levels out again. Wonderful. And if you want to delete any part, you simply select edit, select the line and delete. And if you want to draw new, it's here. So now that we have our center line set up, we can go ahead and click generate unit mix and corridors. And now what Finch is going to do is it's going to start running its custom core algorithms. So let's go ahead and jump up to our filters on the left so we can start to see what kind of metrics and dimensions that we're playing with that are going to affect how Finch generates these corridors. So first and foremost, we have our number of stairwells. Here we have a slider, so we can say to Finch, try and find the best solution that has between 2 to 4 stairwells. Next, we have our egress distances. So these are specific to your region and where you're working. And so here we have a double loaded corridor. So we have multiple exits from each apartment. So here we can stipulate that the distance from each apartment, from any apartment, to a fire escape must not be more than, let's say, 18 meters, and the distance to multiple must not be more than 30. What you'll notice is that every time we make any changes here to our filters on the left, it's going to start again. Each one of these points that we see placed along our center line in the corridor, these are possible accesses to apartments. And if we jump down here to our egress distances, we can see that green is where we're fulfilling the stipulation that we have less than 18 meters. Gray, we can see where we have the stipulation where we're fulfilling less than 30 meters, but if we have 2 possible exits. And the red is where we can say that we're not meeting any of these criteria. So I think what I want to do here, because we have a symmetrical building, is I'm going to go ahead and pull this back to 4. So we tell Finch to work with 4 cores. Now, if we go down, in Finch, we talk about hard and soft figures. So basically when we put in dimensions like our egress distances, these are stipulated, these are fixed, and Finch is going to work with them. Whereas here we have our sliders, and our sliders kind of determine how much priority we should ask Finch to give to these different metrics. So you see, for example, right now we have place stairwells in corners slid all the way to the right. So we're saying that's really important. Let's pull that all the way back to left. And you'll see that it's going to start trying to solve these problems about distances without worrying about putting them in corners. Place stairwells on ends. Let's drag that in. And then finally, whilst this is running, let's go down to our dimensions. Here we can see we have our core widths and our core depths. Our core depth is including the width of the corridor. So for example, if we want a core depth of 5 meters and we have the corridor width of 2, we should make this 7. And if we zoom in, we can see that we now have these depths of 5 meters here. Let's place our stairwells in the corners. And the final thing that we're going to do here is we're going to come up and we're going to click on our stairwell attractors. If we turn these off, These are us telling Finch in which direction to place our cores. So if we go for the exterior, then we're going to ask Finch to place all the cores against this facade instead. In this instance, I think it's much nicer that we have our stairwells facing the interior of the U-shaped courtyard here. Cool. So now we can see that we're hitting our egress distances. We're happy. We have a nice kind of symmetrical layout of our cores. So what we're going to do is go ahead and pause the iteration once we're happy. And now at this stage, we can go and directly generate units around this core. But before we do that, we're just going to click instead apply plan so that we have just our corridors and just our cores in place before we start doing our unit mix. Here we go. Finch has now applied the plan that we've just generated. If we open programs, we can see now that we have our residential and we have our circulation. And if we come down to space types, we can see we have corridors and we have stairs. What's really crucial is the difference between programs and space types is that programs are kind of more like an overview, residential, retail, or circulation, and space types are when we actually go into these spaces and stipulate what these areas are. So in circulation, for example, if we come in, we'll have things like corridors. We can also have, elevators and things like this. These space types are really important so that when we go to generating our unit plans, Finch is able to know, okay, well, if this is a corridor, then it means that we must have access to this space from our apartments. So it's really crucial that if we're drawing our cores in Revit or Rhino and uploading them into Finch, that we make sure that we have space types of corridors in the spaces that we want access to apartments. Okay, that's everything for this tutorial. We've covered how to make a corridor, how to make cores. The next tutorial, we're going to make a unit mix around this existing corridor. As always, in the description below this video, we have access to our Finch docs where you'll find breakdowns of all these tutorials and much, much more. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you at the next one.